Well, we have to train realistically. In wartime, if it ever came to that, all of the flying we do would have to be at low level in order to survive. The missiles and defense systems these days are so good that if you're flying at any height other than at low level, you expose yourself for so long that you can almost guarantee to be shot down. In wartime, we'd be right down as low as you could really go. Obviously, in peacetime, we can't do that, so the 250 feet we fly is a good compromise, we hope, good realistic training and not annoying the local population too much. We're down here at Chivenor in North Devon, and Dartmoor is just 3 or 4 minutes flying time away from Chivenor, so it's a very handy area to use.
And the undercarriage flaps are travelling up. And they're now indicating up and locked. The pressure's good.
The pilots themselves come here fully trained in flying skills, and we are now trying to teach them weaponeering skills as well. A low centre of population in Dartmoor. There's a few towns which we try our best to avoid, and any villages that we come up, we try and go around.
Settling down at 250 feet, 420 knots.
It gives a good demanding profile for us to fly over, demanding terrain of valleys and hills to fly around. And we're travelling at a speed of about 420 knots, which means every minute goes past you've travelled 7 miles, so the scenery outside does change quite rapidly. Inside the cockpit you're working very hard, monitoring the students on the other aircraft, monitoring your own aircraft, and at the same time flying and trying to think ahead of all the things and pitfalls the student might fall into. And that if you're meant to be flying at 250 feet, there's a valley coming up and you can get into the valley. It's a very exciting experience.
Getting ourselves lined up. Clock's running. We're on track. Coming towards the pull-up now. Pulling up at 4G, that's good. Topping out at 2,000 feet, rolling over, looking for the target. As you can see, it's all beginning to happen quite fast now. You've got the target, getting the sight on. Tracking, tracking, tracking. Coming down towards the target and pickling. Now, pulling off the target. Okay, that was a good attack. On the next one, make sure you get a positive recovery after the dive. Minimum height there is 250 feet.
There's mineral elevated to a frightening art form.
Here we are then.
And they are made of minerals that came out of areas like this. So there is this affinity all the time between man's artifacts and the raw place.
Good. Keep it coming down. And that's a nice one. Okay, let's go on further down route.
Suddenly, the solitude has been torn apart. This great rush of noise. And then it's gone. And it's again, nature closes in behind to fill in that chasm with gentleness, with calmness. Ponies, sheep and cattle crop the open spaces and keep them open. Without them, the character of the landscape, the whole character of it would change. Galloway cattle and sheep like the Scottish blackface are the sort of hardy northern breeds which can manage to exist on an upland that's capable of brewing some of the worst weather in Britain. For these animals, the moor is a pretty bare larder, but when the days are kind, life moves with a measured gentleness. The calm has a quality of creatures at peace with themselves and the landscape. At regular intervals on the North Moor, animals are rounded up and brought down to enclosures for their own safety.
Okay, briefing for the trip to Bickley and return to pick up 4-2 Commando. 3, 2, 1, mark, minute 24 local. Cloud, as you can see, is fairly low at the moment. Q and starter Q, 2 to 4/8 of, base 2,500 feet. However, lower in showers, and that's what we're experiencing right now. Well, what we're doing here is training student aircrew in operating in the field in a military environment, albeit simulated, in the jobs that they can be expected to do when they get to be frontline pilots, having completed their training. And this environment, as you see here on Dartmoor, is just about perfect for what we want. There's no local population to upset, and we can get as close to the real thing as possible whilst maintaining the safety of a training environment. There's nobody here but sheep and cows, and of course they can't complain about what we get up to. We can dig in, obviously not too much, there's only certain areas we can dig into because we want to maintain the character of the place. But we are allowed to do a fair amount here, which we wouldn't be allowed to do in most other places in the country, other training areas. We're allowed to fly the aircraft quite low and operate basically how we would like them to do in the real event. And should the balloon ever go up, they're trained up and know what to expect should it happen.
This stretch of high moor owes much of its character to a paradox of the human condition. The constant need for the military to practice the killing skills guarantees the existence of the place. So what could be bad news for the human race tomorrow is good news for wildlife today. but the irony leaves me cold. It would be comforting to know that in the future man will learn to live in harmony with his own kind and the environment. Meanwhile, muscle must be flexed. The military presence extends from here to a gentler intrusion by the Royal Navy further south. When the Royal Navy decided it needed water to supply the dockyard town of Devonport, permission to cut a leak was granted in 1793. The Devonport leat is typical of the many artificial watercourses on the moors. It begins at the weir above Wistman's Wood on the West Dart and flows for roughly 10 miles over open country in gradual descent. Then bounding and leaping down Raddick Hill into that beautiful coombe below Black Tor, where the countryside changes in character. Today, Devonport Leat brings drinking water to Plymouth by emptying itself into Burrow Tor Reservoir. It is one of the more acceptable reservoirs because the landscaping has been done in a more sensitive fashion than it is normally. You can stray, or let your eyes stray, from the quiet, sky-holding water of Burrow Tor Reservoir, across brown hills where the farmers of previous generations have stated a little part of their lives in dry stone walls, on into a brown expanse of low, rounded hill and immense sky that really is soul-cleansingly beautiful. There's a piercing beauty about this place. It is always this business of hills beyond hills, that nameless desire for the nameless place. And when you cross this spaciousness and arrive at the hill, you see other hills and other horizons assembling before you, almost ad infinitum. It's always the sky, huge and beckoning. This is a place subject to the most incredible light changes, to crumbling atmospheres, to days of immense clarity, blurring away as one storm follows another over the hills. Once upon a time, trees were planted around the reservoirs in the belief they would attract clouds to guarantee an almost continuous supply of rain. It was one of those quaint notions worthy of the great English eccentrics, even if it was just plain daft. The dark, geometric patterns of conifers depress me. I get the feeling I'm meeting the landscape on man's terms, and regimentation always makes me feel uneasy. But when the larches are changing colour, and when the beeches are turning as they are now, then you have something fine. Now the random deciduous trees provide a wealth of autumn colour which the stiff rows of conifers lack. Yet even within the conifer gloom, beauty exists. It's almost as if the trees, put there by man to make man money, have suddenly lent themselves to an aesthetic concept, and Forestry Commission Dartmoor is still capable of conjuring up the happy surprise of antiquity preserved in a stone circle. Viewed from a distance, it's very difficult not to see the firs as an intrusion. They're a farm crop, an economic reality, yes, but that phrase, economic reality, could very well become the epitaph of wilderness areas like this.